The name of this activity is Salmon You Can Count On. And it's a perfect example of an activity where students get to blend two different disciplines. In this case, it's going to be math and science. The math is going to be in the form of proportions that are obtained by collecting data. The science is going to be in the form of collecting samples that resemble samples that scientists would take of an actual population of organisms, such as a life scientist trying to obtain a fish sample in a lake. This activity has three main benefits. One of them is that it teaches kids about real-life applications of proportions. The second one is that it teaches kids about what organismal biologists do when they need to get that population number. And the way that they do it is a technique called capture, tag, and release, where they capture a certain number of organisms as a sample from a population, attach some sort of a transmitting device to them, and release them into the wild so that the movement and behavior can be tracked over time. The third benefit is that it teaches kids about sampling technique, and in this activity the sampling technique is going to be a random sample obtained by hand. Although I mentioned that the total population size for this activity is 150 game tokens, or salmon, we don't want the students to know that, so instead all they're going to be told is that there are 30 tagged salmon. So they're going to record that number into their data table, and we're going to have to develop an entire population here, and the way we're going to do that is by taking all the pieces, dumping them into our habitat, swirling it around so that they're equally distributed, take a small sample, and count the number of tagged versus untagged salmon. In this case I have 1 tagged and 2, 4, 6 untagged. So my total sample size is 7. Now that we've collected our first sample, the objective now is to record the data in the appropriate column in the data table. Our total sample size, N, is 7. Total number of tagged salmon, T, is 1. So I'd record those numbers in the data table, and then in another column they're going to ask you to write it as a ratio, and in this case it's going to be N over T, which would be 7 over 1. Now that we have our ratio, what we're going to do is multiply that ratio by the total number of tagged salmon that we started with, which was 30 green tagged salmon. So it would be 7 over 1 times 30. After we've done this, we're going to take 9 additional samples for a total of 10 samples and then calculate the average population size from that number.